My name is Dr. Adam Ceesay. I am a program manager at Wetlands International Africa, WIACO, the regional office for West Africa and the Gulf of Guinea in Senegal.
Good afternoon. My name is Yakhya Gueye. I am a project manager, mangrove specialist in the Wetlands office, field office based in the Saloum Delta in Senegal.
Okay, as we celebrate, virtually celebrate wetland biodiversity, we have a contribution from Wetlands International Africa, presented by myself, Adam Ceesay, and my colleague, Yakhya Gueye. In our presentation, we will talk to you about Wetlands International Africa, who we are, where we are, and what we do. In the second point, we will tell you about our work on coastal wetlands management in West Africa. We will also tell you about what we have done in terms of biodiversity conservation, specifically waterbird census. Our fourth point is our engagement in the West African River Basin Management Initiative, and then we will complete with perspectives. What do we hope to do in the very near future? So, as you may have heard, Wetlands International Africa was established in 1998 as a regional branch of the Wetland Global Office, Wetlands International Global Office. It forms one of the 17 regional offices, and the headquarters are in Ede, Netherlands. Our mission as an institution is a world where wetlands are precious and nurtured for their beauty, the life they support, and the resources they provide. We have a vision to support and restore wetlands, their resources, and biodiversity, both at landscape level, ecosystem, and all the way to communities who are depending on these precious wetlands. To give you a bit of an overview of where we are, the 17 bureaus I talked about are globally distributed around Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. You can see here our presence in Senegal. To tell you a little bit about the basis of what we do and how we do it, we have a theory of change that is a four-step method. One, we combine our expertise and our technical knowledge with that of local people's knowledge in order to build partnerships, in order to make sure that scientific knowledge that is generated is judiciously used to better the lives of communities, as well as protect the ecosystems that we spoke about earlier. The second point in our theory of change is that we try to connect everything to the civil society, because at the end of the day, conservation excluding man is preservation, which we have basically established by research that doesn't really work. So we try to mobilize civil society. We mobilize also other stakeholders, including governments, companies, and even the enterprises through dialogue in order to be able to come to the same understanding of what the ecosystem means to us and what it is to the future generations. After doing that, the next step is we use our results to make a campaign, both at local level, national, regional, and global levels, in order to be able to sort of influence policies in a positive way, to consider a more sustainable way of investing and a more sustainable way of environmental best practices to make a global difference. The fourth step is we measure our performance. How do we measure this performance? How do we impact the communities we have been working at? This is one of the key issues we use to measure our progress. What have we done for the communities, for example, of Senegal? What have we done for the communities depending on all of these wetlands that we've been protecting for the past couple of decades? This, in essence, is how we try to make change with the partners we've been working with for the last couple of decades. If you look here, you will see a little bit, just a sneak peek of what we've been doing in Africa. You see in green most of the countries we've been working in, starting from Mauritania all the way down to Nigeria in the west coast of Africa. If you look at the eastern part of Africa also, from South Sudan, Ethiopia, and all the way down to Mozambique, we've implemented various projects that were geared towards protecting and conserving sensitive wetlands ecosystems. We've conducted research, education, and had some policy dialogues. We provided alternative livelihoods for people who live near ecosystems that we are trying to protect and reduce human footprint in. So if we try to take a more recent view of what we are doing, currently you will have a general selection of our key projects. One is our program on mangrove conservation and restoration. We've got a project called Mangrove Capital Africa, or safeguarding mangroves for people and nature, as well as the project that is at landscape level called GEFOMA. My colleague will tell you more about this specific project. Another important project we have is the PRISE project. This is a French acronym, but basically it means reducing the impacts of infrastructure in sensitive coastal zones of West Africa. A third project is our International Waterbird Census project. We're trying to protect migratory birds who come to various wintering spots in Africa. Our fourth project is called ResilienSEA. Just from the word resilient seas, we try to enable resiliencies through the conservation of seagrass beds within Africa. First, I will try to go into detail with our PRISE project. That is the project on the reduction of the impacts of infrastructure on sensitive coastal ecosystems of West Africa. This project was launched in 2018 and it is going through to 2022. It is funded by the Marva Foundation for Nature, which has sort of formulated about 8 action plans to protect sensitive coastal ecosystems in Africa. So PRISE is action plan number 5. The target countries include Senegal, Mauritania, Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. In these areas, we also went in and identified priority areas. The priority sites that we identified were identified using certain criteria: the presence of one or more of these ecosystems, mangroves, seagrasses, or total nursery grounds. So all of these sites that we mentioned, Salum Delta, Bank of Argan, Apaches Delta, Bijagos Archipelagos, and Boa Vista Islands have these ecosystems in common. Now, how do we protect these sensitive ecosystems we spoke about earlier? We came up with 4 strategies which we think are a great starting point to bring everybody together to conserve these areas. First, we have a strategy on formulation and updating coastal zone management tools. As we know, in West Africa, this is a major problem, the lack of appropriate management tools. So we think it's a great first step to formulate in these 5 countries mentioned management tools that will help the judicious use of these ecosystems. The second strategy is on capacity building, both for stakeholders, state institutions, and civil society. The third strategy, we are strengthening the legal and regulatory framework, put into law the things that we feel will protect these ecosystems from unsustainable utilization. Our fourth strategy is to advocate for policy change and environmental best practices. This we use to try and influence positive attitudinal change rather. We try to advocate for policies to take into account the changes that have occurred in these sites that we mentioned. And we try to bring together various parts of the civil society also to let them get an ownership of managing these sensitive ecosystems. So our key achievements in PRISE for the last 2.5 years, we have created a strong scientific baseline, both at national and regional level, which is necessary for formulation of appropriate management tools and to strengthen the legal framework along the west coast of Africa. So in this scientific baseline, you would find inventories for example, of the Delta of Salum, we now know the key infrastructure, their location, the funding bodies, and the potential risks they pose on the site. We also know which ones are in immediate need of various environmental audits that we can task our governments to take immediate action to correct the destructive cause of infrastructural development. Another key achievement is awareness creation. The understanding of various stakeholders of important environmental issues have been drastically increased during the past 2.5 years. We managed to organize training on the most recent monitoring of environmental areas with MPA staff and environment ministries. We also managed to sensitize specific groups of the civil society, like communities within the immediate area of these ecosystems, enterprises who are responsible for implanting various infrastructure types, to kind of influence the type of infrastructure, to go towards a little bit towards green infrastructure. We sensitize parliamentarians and give them an actual feel of what is going on in the field, so that when they go back in their house, national house, to vote, they actually know the physical meaning of the laws and the accords that they are voting into practice. We also trained the West African network of journalists who now are able to report from a very clear point of view, taking into account the interaction between development and ecosystem change. Last but not least, we formulated training modules at the level of masters in collaboration with key universities, University of Cheikh Anta Diop in Dakar, University of Cape Verde, and the University of Nouakchott in Mauritania. And these are going to continue up to the year 2022. Now, for the other action plan we talked about, ResilienSEA, which is looking at conserving seagrasses and building capacities of West African stakeholders. It is also funded by Mavo Foundation and has more or less the same countries, but an additional 2, including Sierra Leone and the Gambia, where we have priority sites at Cerbero River and Bijol Island, which have recently reported sighting seagrasses. So the strategies under the ResilienSEA project, we have scientific research where we do mapping, ecosystem monitoring, assessment of ecosystem services when it relates to seagrasses. And this is very useful information for the countries that we are targeting. The second strategy is capacity building, where we train technicians, we train students, and we train communities in order to be able to do mapping and conservation measures of these seagrass beds. The strategy 3 talks about communication and awareness. We try to make sure we produce communication material that is understandable both by the scientific community, but also by the politicians and the communities as well. So awareness materials have been very important in teaching the communities, for example, even women group who are involved in oyster collections, cockle collection, to understand what it means when the ecosystem is flourishing and what it means if it is not. What does it mean economically for them and in terms of security and protection from risk associated with environmental change. The last one is advocacy. We try to also influence attitudinal change to encourage best practice and to encourage attitudinal change basically at all levels, be it national, regional, and sub-regional. For achievements of the ResilienSEA, first, for the first time, there has been a comprehensive mapping of all pilot sites in 7 countries from West Africa, which was not available at a global level in the past 4 or 5 years. If you Googled seagrasses in Africa, it was basically empty at a global level. And now we can clearly boast of putting West Africa on the map when it comes to seagrass distribution. A second result we did is a successful launch of a scholarship program in collaboration with our university network to sponsor students from these target countries to learn and be able to support the expert networks in that country to better manage these sites. So at the moment, we have 1 master's student from each of the 7 target countries. which we believe will set the ground for more interest in studying and managing seagrasses in West Africa. The third achievement is awareness creation. We have created awareness through technical training, both at national level and regional level. We have also been in contact with our policymakers and our assembly members. Key people we work with include the Abidjan Convention. This will give us a way to put an additional clause for the protection of seagrasses in the Abidjan Convention. The last project I'm going to talk to you about in coastal wetlands is our work on biodiversity conservation, basically our international waterbird census program. Our objective in this project is to build capacities and to provide technical support for proper monitoring of waterbirds and their habitats along the coast of West Africa. The duration is between 2018 and 2020. Here we have 4 target countries, including Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Mauritania, with priority site chosen due to the number of birds that they host per year as birds migrate from the east to the west. Under the IWC project, we also have 4 strategies: applied research and ecosystem monitoring. As we know, in West Africa, we are in the least developed part of the world. It is important to teach people how important the birds are to the ecosystem as a whole. You would see a bird, for example, and the community would say, this is not useful. But as soon as we start producing research materials and letting them know these birds actually serve as very important ecosystem indicators, the interest started building. So under this is what we were doing: annual census, occasional bird counting exercises, and voluntary monitoring with communities. The second strategy is international lobbying and advocacy. We try to use our results to lobby for more policies and global conventions for the protection of waterbirds. Strategy 3 is national lobbying and advocacy. Here we try to organize dialogue with the various stakeholders in order to be able to have a say at the various national platforms that are involved in coastal zone and wetland protection, that the issues surrounding waterbird conservation is important and should be brought to the table to influence policy. Number 4, we have public support and engagement. We try to sort of create voluntary organizations who live near the most important bird wintering sites, and we try to encourage them to understand that it is more important to conserve this species than poach them on a daily basis, which wouldn't be enough to feed people, but lead to a huge ecological loss. So now communities themselves, who used to be hunting birds a lot, have turned around, form voluntary organizations on their own for bird monitoring. So key achievements of the IWC project: we have also been raising awareness of eco guards and park managers from around our bird sites. So we have at least 150 guards trained between the last 2.5 years. We have successfully set up environmental education programs at primary school level, as we believe the topic can never be too complex. If you start at an early level, these young kids will grow up to be more environmentally aware than our current generation. So we have set up environmental programs in the 4 countries that I mentioned previously. We also have a functional database which can easily be accessed by going on to the Wetlands International Africa website. There's a window that is specially dedicated to waterbird monitoring. So if you go to wetlands.africa.org, you can easily find the results of our occasional monitoring and our annual waterbird census. Our 4th result is the voluntary groups that I already spoke about that have been set up near each of our priority sites. And now this has provided us for a way to sort of apply citizen science, where people would call in or send text message and say, I have seen bird species X or bird species. So, and this helps us in the sighting of very useful bird species who were endangered by poaching and hunting. That is my part of the presentation, so I will pass to my colleague Yakhya.
Thank you very much. Birds are very good transition between seagrasses and mangroves ecosystem, and I'm going to talk to you about our program in wetlands conservation and safeguarding. The first program I'm going to talk about is the MCA project called Mangrove Capital Africa. The objective of this project is to safeguard and restore mangrove ecosystems in Africa for the benefit of people and nature. This is also to remind people the vision of Wetlands International. Its duration is for 10 years, is a 10 years project. Now we are having our second phase since last year. The donors is DOB Ecology, which is a foundation based in the Netherlands. Our target countries are 10 totally in the eastern and western coastline of Africa. In the western part, we have Senegal, where the pilot site is Saloum Delta, where our field office is based. After that, we are going to upscale to the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and we expect to go through Congo before the end of the 10 years to attain 1,000 of hectares of mangroves and 2 million of people that are that benefit from this project. For the eastern part, we have around 4 countries, and the pilot site is located in the Rufiji Delta, which is Ramsar site based in the Tanzania. After that, we are going to upscale to Kenya, to Mozambique, and to Madagascar. In my right, you can see the maps of the country where we intend to work for these 10 years and to attain our objective in terms of safeguarding and restoring mangrove in Africa. We have also 3 strategies for implementing the MCA project: restoration, conservation, innovation. For restoration, we would like to reverse the biodiversity loss because, as I said earlier, birds are a very good indicator for healthy of ecosystem. And when birds are coming, it is because all the ecosystem services are coming back. And if you don't have enough bird, no fish, because it is no fish, then it is a sign of biodiversity loss in terms of mangrove cover. We focus also on treating ecosystem, as I said earlier, including endangered species. In terms of conservation, we would like to prevent collapse and extinction. We also want to connect fragmented habitat and to talk about ecosystem approaches that will link mangrove, continental forests, and also seagrass. They are linked each other. And the last but not the least of our strategies in terms of mangrove restoration, conservation in this particular MCA project is innovation. I would like to support development of new knowledge, value chain approach development, new ways to analyze and share information and data, but also we would like new form of empowerment of local partners and local communities that are living around the mangroves. Our main achievement with this projects, only with 3 years implementation, since 2017, we at least come up with one important thing, which is mangrove curriculum development in West Africa. So far, we had a regional mangrove course in English, and it was for the WIACO site in Eastern Africa. It's the first time we have mangrove curriculum developed in West Africa. And we have 3 courses organized 2 years ago. The other thing also is the mangrove ecosystem restoration and conservation in the Salum Delta specifically for 65,000 hectares in the Salum Delta. We also come up with restoration for at least 100 hectares per year in an ecological way and working with local communities organized in a kind of what we call restoration plan, which include restoration and conservation activities, but also livelihood activities. And talking about livelihood activities, with this project, we reach at least 20,000 people only in the Salum Delta. And we develop value chain for oyster, but also for honey, which is a very like product in this specific locality, municipality. We develop and implement through this livelihood aspect also 4 business plan. 1 in non-timber forest products. The objective also is to reduce the pressure on the mangroves, because they do not, local communities are liable to mangrove resources, and that's why the pressure is huge. We want them to go to look after other types of livelihood activities. That's why we are developing this non-timber forest project. Honey also, in terms of business plan. We develop also cashew nuts and also oyster farming. We enhance mangrove protocol through the Abidjan Convention. We start the process with our partners, IUCN and also PRCM in another project, but with this MCA project, we went to the Abidjan Convention, are now trying to enhance its about as an additional protocol. And the other main also activities achievement is policy influencing locally, but also at the regional level. At the local level, what we did is to set up a new development plan for municipality that is taking into account really mangrove ecosystem and providing enough means and enough money to preserve this particular ecosystem. Next. Our second project in this mangrove portfolio is what we call in French, in acronym GEFOMA. It is management of mangrove forests from Senegal to Benin. It is also a 47 months project that start July 2019. The involved countries are Senegal, of course, Salum Delta, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, Togo, Benin, where mangrove are threatened. The objective is to achieve an integrated way of protection of biodiversity within fragile mangrove ecosystem in West Africa and to enhance resilience of this ecosystem to mangrove, to climate change. And the duration, as I said, is around 4 years, and it is funded by the EU. So you have in my right the involved countries, only Ivory Coast is not involved. The strategy to develop this project, as it is now only 1 year implementation, we have 3 strategies. First of all, is to try to promote an ecosystem approach. As I said, mangrove have ecosystem adjacent that are close to it. And when these ecosystems are degraded, that could affect the mangrove. That's why we promote an ecosystem approach that include continental forests, but also seagrass, including ecological continuities and anthropogenic impacts. The second one, or the second strategy, is in terms of implementation. Some of activities of this project are solely dedicated to co-applicants. And by co-applicant, I mean Wetlands International for one part of the landscape, because we divided the projects into 4 landscapes, and wetlands take into account 2 landscapes. One is what we call Grand Saloum, which take into account Senegal and the Gambia. The other one where wetlands is living is the border between Sierra Leone and Liberia, we call PPC Grand Manu. So for these activities at regional level, Wetlands International as co-applicant will be implemented. We have also another landscape called Casamance, where collective 5 delta will be leading, and the last one will be developed by IUCN. In terms of implementation, the co-applicant will directly implement some activities. But what is important here is the third strategy that consists on providing grants after submitting proposal to some association, partners, other NGOs or CBOs, community-based organizations that are capable to implement some activities related to their capacity, such as implementation of restoration activities, monitoring activities. So we have these 3 strategies that we are going to develop with this project. Since the project starts only 1 year, that we do not have enough achievement, but these achievements are important input for what we intend to do, because we did at least the studies that show us a baseline, gives us a baseline information gathering all socio-economic aspect and ecosystem aspect around the landscape for informing management decision in the Grand Salon. We did the same in the Grand Manu. The diagnostic also study, and we did also what we call a priority action plan for the Grand Salon. So all this information are developed and are available and would be the baseline information for all the grants we are going to provide. But the other important achievement is also the geochronic maps of the Grand Salon that we develop. We have a land use, what we call land use, land cover, and the changes around the time since 1980 up to 2020. We have developed 4 series of maps that shows us the hotspot where people have to go to implement activities directly by co-applicant or through the small grant strategies. The other point also very important, which is also background information for the development or the implementation of the project, is the transboundary and multi-stakeholder platform that we set up in Salon first, and then after, based to our experience, we set up in the new national park, and we put together all these 2 platforms to have one platform that will be our responding platform to the whole delta. So these are the main achievements that we have with the project management of forests from Senegal to Benin, which is also one of our second project in mangrove portfolio. Then I'm going to present you our work with river basin. And by river basins, we mean Senegal River Basin. In the implementation of the MFS2 Ecosystem Alliance, which objective was improving livelihood of poor and greening the economy through a participatory ways and responsible ways of ecosystem management, which were implemented between 2011 and 2015 and were funded by the Netherlands Development and Cooperation. We had 2 countries involved, Senegal in Salon Delta. As you can see, we have lots of information, lots of projects implemented in the Salon Delta. but also in the Senegal River Delta. And in Kenya also, we have another site called Lake Kipini. Developing our work in the Senegal Delta, we said it's not as we are promoting an ecosystem approach, we have to work with river basin organization, because what is happening downstream are their causes upstream. So what is happening in Guinea, what is happening in Mali, which is the upper basin and the mid basin, have impacts on the delta, which is the last part before you reach the which is the delta before the sea. So that's why we go to talk with this through this project. We go to work with the basin, the Senegal River Basin Management Authority, and tell them that we would like to have information about wetlands in the Senegal River Basin, their ecosystem services they provide to the local communities, and also to do the inventory of risk and opportunities for each of the wetlands I talked about. As you can see in the map, you have 3 circles, and that was our area where we work with. In the south, you have upper basin in Guinea. After the mid-valley in Mali, and the delta, Senegal River Delta, which is between Senegal and Mauritania. Next, please. We did the inventory of wetlands, hotspot, and related ecosystem services to come up with a kind of information that we have going to share as a tool to as a tool for the Senegal River Basin. After that, we produce a map of an atlas of wetlands. We produce an atlas of wetlands where you can find wetlands in the Senegal River Basin. And this also is important for them to know where they have ecosystem services. But the most important activities was the valuation. How cost is their ecosystem or their services they provide. And on the bottom, you can see 5 rectangles that shows the steps we are following to do this economic valuation. After doing the characterization of the ecosystem and its biodiversity, we are going to see what are the functions of that ecosystem, but what are the services that these ecosystems are providing to local communities, the benefits, and then after we go to the values. We have mainly 4 ecosystem services, but for the lake Erkis, we go through only through 2 ecosystem services. The first one is provisioning services, what people took directly, what people are taking directly from the ecosystem, and the cultural one, which includes the amenity function and all other information related to cultural aspects. And then after, we set up multi-stakeholder platform all around the Senegal River Basin for a better management of water resources and also for ecosystem. And then we come up with an MOU, which is signed between Wetlands International and the Senegal River Basin Authority that allow wetlands to be the most important actors working in terms of wetlands management with the Senegal River Basin. And that was a very important achievement throughout this project. Our perspective will be more focused on capacity development, strengthening partnership, etc. So we would like to look after forward to strengthening the partnership established for coastal infrastructure. As my colleague talked above, we have a platform of actors that are set up. So we'd like to continue working with them, but also trying to upscale what is our best practices in other area, in another one where we did not work. The CSR, Corporate Society Responsibility Engagement. This also starts with a small grant from the Dutch Embassy, and we have lots of important output that we are going to implement in the Salon Delta and elsewhere. the harmonization of coastal zone management protection in other countries. This is something we start and we would like to upscale. We want also to continue exchange between the national expert team for better conservation of seagrass bed in West Africa. As my colleague said, we developed a master program in some university, but we do not have enough students to be part of this master. So we would like to go down to the bachelor level course development, and then after have more input for our master program. Technical exchange, yes, this is indeed needed for all projects, and also integration into supranational accords such as Abidjan Convention, as said above my colleague. We would like also through MCA to upscale our work in the Western Africa and Eastern Africa coastline of Africa as well. As I said, so far we have only 4 countries involved among our list of 10 countries that we should tackle between the end of this program, to attain the million of hectares of mangrove to conserve, and also 2 million of people to benefit from the wise use of these wetlands. Wetlands International also would like to continue to work with the River Basin Authority. As I said, we have an MOU with Senegal River Basin. It is important also to have the same thing for the development in the Gambia River Basin. We have lots of infrastructure developed, as my colleague said, and there's infrastructure will have obviously impacts downstream. So we need to develop some MOU with them and to be their kind of advice to better to have infrastructures that are green, or at least that are environmentally friendly. The same thing also will be done in the Mano River between Liberia and Sierra Leone. We would also like to do the protection of peatlands with our new project that we are going to develop, because we would also like to reduce the emission of greenhouse emission gases and to promote sustainable livelihood in the Congo DRC. So I let the floor to my colleague Adam to say the last word before we finish our presentation.
Thank you very much, Yakhya. I think with regards to perspective, we would like to continue making our actors platforms active. For the next 2 years, Wetlands International is trying to strengthen the partnerships from the sub-regional level, but also all the way down to the Gulf of Guinea. So every country has something that they have agreed upon at national level. In Mauritania, we have the platform sur la mer, the platform on the ocean. In Senegal, we have mangrove platform. In Cabo Verde, we have the national platform on coastal zone management, and each of these people are trying to do something to improve the coastal zone utilization. So this is what we want to try to consolidate and make sure that the results stay here even after we have closed our work on the coastal ecosystems or coastal wetlands of West Africa. Thank you, Yakhya, for giving me the floor again. And this is the end of our presentation. If there are any questions, they are welcome. Thank you.